The soul, the culmination of one's being, is so mysterious that even the inhabitants of Undertale and Deltarune's worlds know almost nothing about them. In this video, I will go over everything there is to know about the souls, and go to speculation in order to solve some of its greatest mysteries, such as how Kris can survive and create a dark fountain without the determination in their soul. First, let's talk about souls in Undertale. In Undertale, almost every creature has a soul, Flowey being the only exception, which is different depending on whether they are a human or a monster. Monster souls are said to be made of love, hope and compassion by the books in the Snowdin library, and are weaker than human souls, as they cannot contain determination, or at least a significant amount of determination, as a monster's non-physical bodies cannot handle it and will melt. Human souls, on the other hand, are said to not need love, hope and compassion by the books in Snowdin, and although this book may be biased, the monsters feel a great deal of resentment towards humans. It seems likely this is true considering what we know about the human-monster war, and the player and Kara in the genocide realm. Human souls seem to have the traits of bravery, justice, integrity, kindness, perseverance, and patience. We know this because of the Snowdin ball game. In this game, you must hit a snowball into a hole in a certain amount of time, and depending on how long this takes you, one of the 7 coloured flags will appear and describe how you completed the ball game. Getting the best time gives you the red flag that comes with the description: bravery, justice, integrity, kindness, perseverance, patience. Using these, you were able to win at ball game. Each of the traits listed here are coloured with one of the colours of the flags, and the trait itself matches with the description given when you got that flag. These colours, descriptions and traits line up with the 7 fallen human souls. For example, a light blue souled human owns a toy knife, which matches the description given with the light blue flag, which says you waited still for this opportunity, and then dethroned Bull with sharp attack, as the word sharp seems to be referencing the toy knife and not the light blue souled human. Furthermore, it is the red flag that is described with all 6 traits, meaning perhaps Kara or Frisk have all these traits combined. It is unclear whether the ball game is just referring to the 6 humans, or is implying that the colour of a human soul is determined by these 4 traits. Although, the ball game in itself is a strange source, as we have no idea who it was made by, or how they have this information, since I doubt this is common knowledge amongst monsters, considering this is never brought up anywhere else, and is strangely specific to the 6 humans items. Human souls also have the ability to persist after death through their determination, and because of this, a monster can absorb that soul, giving them extreme power. Boss monster souls, such as those of Asriel and Toriel, can also persist after death and can be absorbed like human souls, granting the human who absorbs them incredible power as well. However, it is unclear if this power is the same as monsters who have absorbed human souls. Lastly, a monster can't absorb another monster's soul, just as a human cannot absorb the soul of another human. It's unclear whether when a soul is absorbed it combines with the soul already present, or it exists separately from that soul inside the same body. In the case of Omega Flowey, the souls are seen separated. However, Asriel says, Frisk, when Kara and I combined our souls together, implying that the souls do combine, and this also aligns with some of the earlier lines of dialogue, such as when he says, "Right now, I can feel everyone's hearts beating as one." So perhaps a monster and human soul is needed for the souls to combine, or something like that. Next, let's discuss souls in Deltarune. In Deltarune, our sources of information on the souls are much more limited. The first time they are brought up in Deltarune is the tutorial of Rousey, in which he describes the soul as the culmination of Kris's being, just as Flowey does in Undertale, and also says that in it resides their compassion, will, and the fate of the world, which seems to line up with what we know about them in Undertale, as will is simply a synonym for determination, which humans have, and compassion a synonym for kindness, which was one of the 6 human soul traits. And the fate of the world may very well only apply to Kris's soul in particular, especially since the voice, most likely Gaster, that speaks after you die in Chapter 1 will say, "The world was covered in darkness if you choose not to persist." The second mention of the souls in Deltarune is in the hometown library in the book about souls. It reads, "The soul has long been called many things, the font of our compassion, the source of our will, the container of our life force, but even now the true function of it is unknown." The book starts off by reiterating what Rousey says in the tutorial, but also says that the soul contains one's life force, which is perhaps referring to determination, as in Undertale it is what allows you to return from death, roadblocks allow souls to persist, and this will brought Asriel back to life in the form of Flowey. And in Deltarune, darkness is given life by the Dark Fountains, which are made of determination. One thing I find quite interesting is that this book notes no distinction between human and monster souls, and describes souls in the same way Rousey describes Kris's human soul, which is peculiar as this book is an account of monsters, which you'd think would mean the book would describe monster souls, and thus it wouldn't make sense that the description of the soul is the same as Kris's, meaning a monster and human souls must be the same in Deltarune. Further evidence of this is that humans and monsters are already more alike than in Undertale, as monsters cannot use magic. According to Queen, monsters can wield determination, and they may also bleed, as Susie says everybody bleeds, implying she does, which would align with a lack of magic and being able to hold the power of determination without melting. Also, Toriel has a bathroom which she wouldn't need if she didn't have a physical body, as monster food in Undertale is simply absorbed by them, and thus they don't poop. And with their bodies being magic, it's very possible they don't shower in Undertale either, as they don't have any showers. Also, simply based on the fact that darkness do not live outside of the determination provided to them, I think it is most likely that darkness do not have souls, and that if they gained a soul from a lightner, then they would be able to live in the light world. Now I'm going to go over some of the mysteries still left unanswered and discuss the specific souls of Undertale's characters. One of the biggest Undertale mysteries that is often overlooked is how Frisk left the underground without either Asgore or Toriel's soul. Through looking at the genocide route, we can say that Kara's soul is the soul we control in Undertale. Kara's presence is undeniable, and it makes sense that the soul is Kara's, as that is the name we see on screen next to the HP bar that goes down when the soul gets hit. But remember that earlier in the video I said that it's unclear whether when a soul is absorbed, it combines with the soul already there or not. If the souls do combine, then it would be possible that this singular soul we see in battle is made up of more than one soul. If this is true, then Asriel's soul would still be present in Kara's after their death. This would explain how Frisk is able to cross the barrier, as if they have Asriel's soul, then they have the power of both a human and monster soul that they need. Part of why I think this is because when Flowey absorbs all the monster souls, he becomes himself again, even saying, "I not only have my own compassion back, but I can feel every other monster's as well." What I find particularly interesting is that he claims that the compassion he feels is not just that for the other monsters, but that he can somehow feel his own compassion. So I propose that when Flowey absorbed all the monster's souls, he also absorbed his own from Frisk's body, thus restoring in him his own compassion, which he keeps, because this is not a soul he has to give back, meaning he can still feel compassion, even if he returns to being a flower, which we know is true because of what he says once you reopen the game after a pacifist run, and he has his compassion in the Undertale alarm clock dialogue too. Given that monsters are said to be attuned to their souls, then perhaps without the presence of a monster body, the soul has no will of its own, and that's why, as far as I can tell, Asriel's soul doesn't show its presence as Kara's does if you believe in Narakara and in the genocide route, and although Flowey isn't really a monster, he does have Asriel's dust. Another of Undertale's biggest mysteries is how Frisk would be able to absorb Kara's soul if human, as the glyphs in Waterfall specify that this is not possible. My theory is that Frisk, like Flowey, died, and their body was brought back with determination, making them not human, and thus able to absorb human soul. This would explain both how Frisk absorbed Kara's soul, and how Kris can live without their soul in Deltarune, despite the book in the library saying that it is the container of life force and the consistency of determination, which is stored in the soul, being needed for life, as if Kris is in the same circumstances as Frisk, which is likely because I believe Kris is the Deltarune equivalent of them, then they would be able to live without the soul, using the determination in their body. Now this theory may sound far-fetched, but the one line of dialogue that gives me a lot of confidence in this theory is in chapter 2, when Susie says, "Well, look who it is, school zombie. You were sleeping like a corpse all class." If I am correct, then this seemingly unimportant line of dialogue would work as perfect foreshadowing that nobody would realise, and that I can absolutely see Toby Fox doing. With this theory, it is also possible that both the soul and body are both Kris, as if Kris herself persisted, then when their body was brought back to life, it's possible they'd be two different people, both Kris. This would contradict how I claim that Flowey became one with their soul when they absorb it at the end of Undertale, but perhaps that only works for Flowey because monsters are attuned to their souls, while humans are not. This would explain why the name in the menu says Kris if the body is Kris, despite Kara's name being the menu in Undertale, which would mean the name of the soul is what would appear there, which could be true if the soul is also Kris. But to be honest, I'm not too confident in that theory, and perhaps in Deltarune it just works differently, so that the name of the body appears there. Next is why the soul breaks when you die in Undertale and Deltarune, and I believe the answer is a lack of determination. In Undertale, the glyphs in Waterfall say a human's determination is what allows their soul to persist, in which case the simple answer is that our soul doesn't have that determination. And if the red soul is Kara's, then their tragic backstory would be a good explanation as to why this is the case. In fact, when the soul refuses in the final battle against Asriel, that is a show of our determination. Now at first, I thought that this theory didn't make sense, because if the soul lacks determination, then how would it then be able to reset? Which Flowey makes clear is a power tied to determination. But then I realised that every time you die, you can hear Asgard's word of encouragement, and every time you save, you have to be filled with determination. And when you think about it, wouldn't you always have the ability to save if you were always so determined, at any point, like Flowey does in the neutral ending of Undertale? You don't have determination initially, and your soul breaks, but then Asgard's words fill you with determination, allowing you to reset. And when you save, you have to be filled with determination by your environment. The final mystery regarding the souls is the nature of Kris's soul, specifically why it holds the fate of the world. Now, when first writing this script, I thought that Kris's soul was the only one with enough determination to rival the Knight's, but the more I thought about it, the less sense that made. If combined with my other theory, that for the human souls to break there needs to be a lack of determination, and to close the dark fountain, Kris would have to be given some sort of encouragement, since their soul also breaks. But in chapter 2 this is anything but the truth. What Susie says when you reach chapter 2's dark fountain is the exact opposite of encouragement. This in no way would encourage Kris to close the dark fountain. This led me to another theory, one that is the complete opposite from my theory prior. What if the lack of determination is the power needed to close the dark fountains? The main thing that makes me feel strongly in this theory is that when the dark fountains are closed, it is done by the soul emitting light. At the end of chapter 2, Queen says the power to create dark fountains is determination, a power that supposedly all lightners possess. So if the opposite of darkness, light, is needed to close the fountain, then it makes sense that determination is the power of darkness, and the opposite of determination is the power of light. Also, darkness cannot wield determination, and that they all have coloured portraits as if they were lit up, and lightness portraits were not. This also makes sense as the power to save, as the ability to save is clearly quite different from Undertale's, and I don't think they revealed that this power was determination all along would surprise anyone at all. So that was my theory on the souls in Undertale and Deltarune. This video has taken a while to make as I kept finding problems with my theories, but if you could like and subscribe, especially since as of writing this I only have 32 subscribers, then I would greatly appreciate it. Also feel free to discuss in the comments and I will probably respond to all of them.